welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host Bob Zerl. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. Visit us at IHateCritics.net, Everyone's a Critic Podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. CriticsPod is the handle. There you'll see the trailers, Sean's reviews, interaction, blah, blah, blah. And I'm also working on a YouTube channel that should hopefully... I didn't realize Libsyn had a nice platform to make videos out of your podcast.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully in the next week or two, we'll have a YouTube channel as well. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Alexa, Stitcher, all your podcatchers. Subscribe to the show. Rate and review the show. We'll read your review on the air. And Patreon. IHateCritics.net/Patreon is the best way to help support the podcast. There's also a PayPal link at our site, along with a merchandise tab that we do through TeePublic if you want any of our podcast merch.
You know, just a little commercial for our Facebook page or something that's going to be on there is a couple things I've written just today that I haven't gone up yet. But we're going to get to reviewing Brittany Runs a Marathon a little later in the show. But I wrote something about that movie that I don't know if I want to try and touch on. I'm obviously I will, but I mean, from an emotional perspective, that I don't know if I can necessarily get to vocally. So
right.
That'll be on our Facebook page, and along with a completely random song review I did of Bruce Springsteen's Secret Garden as the single worst song that Springsteen ever wrote.
I was hoping you're going to say ever written.
It's up there. It's up there. I had an Indiana Jones moment with Bruce Springsteen.
And this is coming from the guy who defended or said nice things about...
It's one song. It's one goddamn song.
I know, but what is that song that Billy Ray Cyrus... I can't...
Oh, yeah, that's a great song.
It's like terrible. Maybe the worst song ever written.
in the context of itself as a song. But in the cultural context, in the larger context,
I don't care about cultural context.
Fucking brilliant.
I'm sick of cultural. This Joker movie is going to ruin cultural context for the rest of the world. I cannot stand watching people argue over that thing. It's like, okay, she wrote a review. She reviewed it in the cultural context. That is okay. Leave it be. Don't get mad at her. Just leave it. She didn't review the movie. She reviewed the cultural context of the movie. Why do we have to fight over that? It's so... And now, oh, God...
Because Twitter is the place where toxicity goes to thrive.
Right.
The hot take lives, and it's Twitter. That's what Twitter does. Like, I get into a conversation on Twitter today about Dirty Dancing, and I actually had a thoughtful discourse on it. And of course, what's the reaction? Crickets, because people don't go to Twitter for a thoughtful discourse.
Right. But, I mean, it's funny, though. If you look around right now, movie-wise on the internet, it's the Joker movie. Everybody fighting back and forth, most of which who have not seen it.
Right.
Let's leave that there. Number two, or 2 and 3, really, are Jennifer Lopez and Adam Sandler could get Oscar nominations this year, which is pretty entertaining, but it is also only September.
Right.
Before we get there, though, we'll start about our 2 trailers. Like a Boss...
Oh my God.
Great cast, no chemistry.
What the hell is happening in this trailer? This is a January movie, all right. This is a classically January movie. This is a January movie that got me thinking of stuff like White Chicks and, oh God, what was that Lisa Kudrow, Damon Wayans piece of garbage? Marcy X, like that level of dumb is coming off of this trailer. Everything looks awkward and off throughout this entire trailer. It feels like it came from another century. It's so bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying. There's really nothing that really could make me want to see it. I like all 3 women involved. They just don't look like they have any chemistry at all. And I mean, I guess Kevin Hart has had movies like this where he's managed by just being Kevin Hart to make them watchable. Hopefully Tiffany Haddish can do that. In the trailer, it does not give you that hope because her and Rose Byrne's chemistry, their chemistry is terrible. At least in the trailer. You know, movies have been better. Those Kevin Hart movies specifically have all ended up being more watchable than the trailers themselves.
Yeah, what was that? Oh God, the one he made 2 of. He made 2 of those movies.
Ride Along?
I can't remember. Ride Along is a good example, but he did one where Think Like a Man. Was it Think Like a Man 1 and 2? Something
Maybe
like that?
He's done. he had a run there of like nothing but January movies, and then he'd have like a March movie right after that, like an early March movie before the adventure movies.
Yeah, I really hope that so. But what the hell is Salma Hayek playing in this movie? Who gave her notes? Did anybody give her a note to play at all? She just is all things all at once. Look at and she does that kind of humor that hurt. It's like figures on a chalkboard to me, where somebody just says something obvious about themselves, as if that they're being aware of it makes it funny somehow. And I'm sorry, no, there's no joke there when she just says, "My head isn't small, I just have giant boobs." Like, where's the joke in here? Is there a joke here?
Well, that's the attempt at the joke. I mean, there's a lot of jokes.
It's anti-humor.
They're jokes that work better in a room or when you're pitching ideas than they do when you finally film it. And so, like, you get 3/4 of the way through the movie and you're like, uh-oh, I think I just made a January movie. And then there was Jexi. We didn't post it on our social media, but it was with the theater films this week.
The better Rose Byrne movie.
Yes.
That she's not actually visually in.
Just so weird, because she's usually a chemistry magnet. She's usually plays a small role that kind of holds the chemistry together for most movies. Yeah, The Neighbors, anything really. She has a small role that, But, and Adam Devine somehow manages to not. He does what he always does, but makes it seem kind of fresh this time.
He really does, yeah. And, this is the first real starring role for him in a movie, and I love the idea that they've taken her and taken it to this very ugly modern place. It feels just kind of appropriate, and it makes her feel like 1,000 years ago in some ways. Even though I love that movie, and I'm not knocking it. I'm not saying this is going to be better. I'm saying that it just changes. It's like this is what's the ugly offspring of that. You have that beautiful thing, and this is what the internet would do to her.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I would give it enough credit as her, but it's definitely the comedy version of it with being uglier, and sometimes ugly can be funny. But, I mean, if nothing else, it looks entertaining, so I'm looking forward to seeing that when it comes out. So do you really want to start with the Fanatic?
You want to start with the
Fanatic? Yes, I
do. This is the hard part for you, I would say.
It's not that hard. It's one of those where I felt like everybody wanted it to be The Room, and it's not The Room, and for reasons that are good and bad. One, it's not genuine like The Room is. It's loosely based on a true story Fred Durst went through. Clearly, he had a little fantasy at the end where he beat the crap out of the guy who was stalking him, but it's very loosely based, poorly written, but it was competently directed, and I thought Travolta was actually good unless you pull him out scene by scene and watch it. Travolta kind of disappears into the role, and it's not really fair to sit there and, it's not Tommy Wiseau. It's not, it's just, he's in a kind of a poorly written movie that really should be more forgotten than bashed, I guess is kind of where I'm at. This isn't Room level bad. This isn't Adam Sandler. This is its own little thing that people are more reviewing the fact that it's Fred Durst and John Travolta working together, and they're kind of reviewing that and laughing at that, and I don't think it's that bad. I'm not saying it's good, because it's not a well-written movie at all. Yeah. But even when you describe that scene with the Limp Bizkit, one, definitely terrible decision since you're the singer of Limp Bizkit. But in the context of the movie, it wasn't as bad as, when you pull it out and you look at it as an individual scene. It's not good, but it's just kind of there. It existed. So my defense of it...
necessary.
Definitely not necessary.
Demonstrative of directorial arrogance.
Oh, definitely. But it wasn't nearly as stupid as it should have been. When you pull it out, when we talked about it on the show, it was way stupider than when I watched it. It was almost throwaway in the movie. But definitely a bad decision. So my defense of it isn't that it's great. It's just that it's not what everybody's saying it is. To me, it's more picking on one or two guys just because you don't like them, and not the Sean you, but the everybody you.
Right.
And that's more where I'm at. But it's not a good movie.
I think when you talk about Travolta disappearing into the role, I think part of that is the kind of lack of self-awareness that he's always had. He's not aware of himself. He's not aware of how people see him. And maybe that's great. That's a wonderful thing for him, maybe. But it does open him up to this type of criticism that he can allow himself to look very, very silly and not realize that he's doing it and bring no awareness to it. And without the awareness of it, I don't know. I don't know where I fall on this. Like, it's impressive, I guess, in a way that he gives himself so fully to this, but it's almost like...
But you're doing a movie with Fred Durst. You got to know that, you're kind of looking at it as a grand scale thing.
I don't think he cares who Fred Durst is.
But he needs to. That's the self-awareness he lacks.
Yeah, and I think I don't think he knows exactly where he is in that way. And it's almost kind of sad. It's quite, I don't know, pathetic. What's the word I'm looking for here? I don't want to insult the man. I just want to say that I don't think he's aware of what this is, and I feel bad for him that he doesn't see where this is coming from. Did you see the country songs he did with Olivia Newton-John? It's really embarrassing, but you can sense that he has no idea that it's embarrassing. Like, he does not have the awareness of how silly he looks, and that's a repeated theme with him, is that he is so detached from what the rest of the world thinks that he isn't aware, and it makes him kind of poignant, I guess, and it makes the performance a little bit poignant. But it reminded me a lot, and I keep going back to this reference a lot, Simple Jack from Tropic Thunder. He's so very much the deep level of commitment to something that really you've committed far too much to this, and he commits far too much to Moose, to the point where he doesn't seem aware of how silly it looks.
I mean, I know what you're saying. I think in the context of the movie, it doesn't come off as silly. But when you watch the scenes individually on YouTube, oh my God. I mean, literally the first line of the movie is, "I have to poo." Which, again, it works for that character, but when you just watch it by yourself, it's hilarious, and it's kind of a point and laugh thing. And you're right. If you look at... Ben Affleck's the perfect example of doing it right compared to what Travolta did. Travolta has had a string of just awful movies, or movies that have been perceived as awful. Even Gotti, I think you kind of defended that when it came out. I don't remember, right? But it never really came out. It just kind of went away and it got panned. There was The Killing Season or whatever it was he did with De Niro. He just did a bunch of these horrible movies. On top of it, he hasn't really ever come back from Battlefield Earth, to be completely honest with you. Yeah. And he hasn't done anything to change the direction. So just doing a movie with Fred Durst by itself is like, okay, that was a bad idea. Even if he phoned it in. You look at someone like Ben Affleck, who did Geely, and Jersey Girl got thrown into that movie. Even though I liked that movie, he went out of his way to try to bring his career back by doing small roles in like Aces High and Extract, and then work his way back and then direct. And then he got back to where he wanted. He was aware of what he was doing wrong. And Travolta, in a big picture thing, yes, that's really where the mistake is. The movie itself, to me, the reason it gets so much attention is because it's got probably the most hated man in the history of music, and then John Travolta. And I don't think it's fair criticism, for the movie itself. But when you take a step back and look at it on a bigger picture, yeah, I mean, you're right. It was just a lack of self-awareness that was a really bad decision.
There's a lot of bad decisions in this movie. The voiceover is a bad decision. The performance of Devon Sawa, the portrayal of that character is a series of bad decisions, because you're not creating a character that anybody can have any kind of sympathy for. He's a jerk from beginning to end, too. Not that he deserves what he gets. He's completely reasonable in terms of the way he reacts to this idiot savant psychopath.
But they don't spend time, enough time with him showing him getting to that point.
It's
so he just looks like a dick.
Yeah, he's 0 to 100 immediately, and that's a poor directorial choice. There's a lot of bad things about this movie that are legitimately worthy of criticism, including Travolta, because Travolta does not give this role an actual... I mean, it's hard to watch this movie, and especially when you're watching it at home and you have the ability to stop it. You're watching him say, "I gotta take a poop," and you have to pause for a moment and go, what the fuck kind of character are we dealing with here? Like, it's hard not to pause and just kind of laugh at the bizarre choice. Now, yes, if you're able to hold that in the context of the character and try and focus and put that all together, maybe you can see where that's a choice that character would make. But it's hard not to look at it and go, what? I just kind of pause and shake your head, because I stopped the movie like, that's how we're starting?
And I definitely, I never left really the context of the movie watching it, and I try to do that as much as I can. That there's different choices when it comes to criticism, and just I got halfway through it, I'm just like, this is just people wanting to point and laugh. You take it out of the context of the movie, and I just think it deserves to be more of a throwaway movie, forgotten about. It doesn't deserve the attention one way or the other. What deserves the attention is, the Fred Durst, John Travolta. You got two really popular names, not necessarily for the right reasons, doing a movie together. And then on the fact that it made like $3,000 in the theater on one night.
I'm reminded of this theory that I think I've spoken of on the show about, when you're a musician and you reach a certain height and you're not able to write songs the way you used to because you don't have a relatable reality. Like as a billionaire can't write a song about a guy who's poor anymore because he doesn't know what that life is like anymore. I think people like Cage and Travolta have become so detached from everyday life and the way that other people live that they don't know how to interpret it anymore.
That's true. What Cage has done right has just been lucky with the movies. Even those straight-to-video movies have somehow just worked. And whether you've seen them or not, the people that do see them are just like, this is amazing. And then you get a director like Cosmos, whatever it is, like Cosmatos Panos or whatever, I can't remember how to pronounce it, who knew what to do with someone like him. And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you my Limp Bizkit story. I saw them opening for Metallica right after the Napster thing, where Limp Bizkit was on the side of Napster and Metallica was fighting it. They literally got booed off stage in Chicago, like shit thrown at them. They played like 4 songs and then had to leave. And everybody was like, Metallica come out earlier. I'm like, no, Metallica's not coming out earlier. Now I got to wait an extra hour and a half. But like 4 months later, Limp Bizkit came back to Chicago opening for Korn and actually won the crowd. Like, I was in the front row. They were ready to just boo them off stage again. And they somehow managed to win the crowd over. So it was impressive to me, but it's something that no one will ever get credit for because he's kind of a douchebag when it comes to the public perception. And I guess, it's never unwarranted. You've always done something to get there. But there you go. Way too much time on the Fanatic, but I don't know. I guess that's my point, is it doesn't deserve really any time. It's just kind of a throwaway movie with big names in it. Hustlers,
Jennifer Lopez, Constance Wu as strippers in New York City in 2007. In the midst of a Wall Street boom, where Wall Street guys are all over the strip club, raining money everywhere.
Oops, sorry.
Sort of raining money everywhere, and they're living the high life for a little while. Constance Wu is the new girl who gets taken under the wing of Ramona, played by Jennifer Lopez, and for a time everything is going really, really well. And then the housing crisis hits. The Wall Street guys scurry like cockroaches looking for the underside of a refrigerator when the light comes on, and suddenly the strip club's empty. And they're not making any money anymore. Constance Wu goes away and has a baby with a guy who's does not figure into this story in any way. And when she comes back in 2011, she finds that the place hasn't recovered. There's still no way to make money until J-Lo comes along with an idea about drugging guys and dragging them to the strip club and taking their credit cards and taking all the money off of them. You can obviously figure out where the story is going. This is not a movie that's about the ending, about any kind of surprise ending. This is a movie about how you get there, and how you get there is really, really good. It's exceptionally well portrayed. Lorraine Scafaria is the director here, and she does an amazing job of giving these characters plenty of things to play with and to work on, and structures the story well via this story being written by Julia Stiles' character, a reporter. She's getting this story from Constance Wu's character, who's concerned about her relationship with Ramona because they don't have a relationship anymore as the story is going. But maybe they'll perhaps come back together someday. But it's really smart, really funny. Really does it taps into that Schadenfreude I think we all feel towards Wall Street guys, especially in the wake of the housing crisis. I think the idea of watching them get taken by somebody, but especially a diverse group of women who happen to be single mothers, the kinds of people who are the ones who are going to pay most for what these Wall Street assholes did. It feels it feels in a weird way like Justice, if on a very, very small scale, because Justice would be, an actual fair economy that wasn't manipulated by these guys. That would be what justice truly is. But actual justice would be an economy that is just and not manipulated by these guys. But on a minor scale of justice, this feels all right to me.
Yeah, and then you throw in the fact that, they do take it too far. They start going outside of Wall Street, and so you establish that breakdown in their friendship and them going too far, them getting in trouble, and so you take it the full gamut. And I thought this movie was phenomenal, like top 3 for the year. It's that, and all that buzz about Jennifer Lopez, I think, is warranted, but not. I mean, I think Constance Wu was really good in this too. It's not just Lopez. I really, really was shocked at this movie. It's kind of like The Big Short too, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I think for me, what Constance Wu does is not get blown off the screen, honestly, which I think is a testament to her incredible talent, is that she's really the lead of the story. And many another actress might have gotten blown off the screen by what Jennifer Lopez is doing here, because Jennifer Lopez looks like a fucking star. She is unbelievable. She hasn't been this charismatic in years, since Jenny from the Block. Like, literally that long since she's been this charismatic. She's tried to dowdy herself up and pretend that she's, a puttering romantic lead,
right.
And she's not. That's not Jennifer Lopez. I'm sorry. That's just not who you are. Who she is big, glamorous personality. That's Jennifer Lopez, and that's what she really captures here, is this character, is this big, huge personality. The first thing you see of her is pointing that giant backside and just money raining everywhere.
Right.
And you don't question it for a second. Like, yeah, that's what would happen. That is exactly what would happen. And then she is just all glamour and star power and just radiating all over the screen.
But what's amazing about it is that breaks apart throughout the movie, and then by the end, it's almost fake. It's real, and then it just kind of gradually falls apart. And by the end of it, it's all that glamour is. You can even the look on her face, the way she wears her makeup. She's back down. She's no longer that star. I mean,
right.
Yes, Jennifer Lopez as a person is, but the character it gets broken down, and then eventually you just see her working at retail, and it's all the way gone. But just the whole transformation of her character, and really Constance Wu kind of goes the same direction, just on a lower level. And I don't know, I thought their chemistry was fantastic. I just thought the whole thing was really good. And the way they captured the friendship, which I know the true story is not really the same. I guess it was more like two Jennifer Lopez's bumping heads.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the one thing the lady who was the Constance Wu character, that's the one thing she didn't like about the movie. She wanted to be more of the dominant. And she's also back with that guy who got her pregnant. So I don't know if the real story is as good as the movie. But the movie, I was really blown away. It went from... it never felt exploitative, even though they were naked here and there. But I don't know. It was just the way... what you saw on screen was what they were doing to the guys. They only did what they wanted to do. It was really, really well done. Very, very feminist in a lot of ways. I felt very embarrassed going to the movie alone because you take it out of context, and
right,
here's a single guy, or appearing to be single guy, sitting in the front row by himself at a stripper movie, but it's way more than a stripper movie, and I can't recommend this movie enough.
It's unapologetically sexy in a way that movies haven't been in a long time, and it's almost a revolutionary act at this point to actually portray women as sexy, because you get automatically accused of being perverse when you do. And so I guess maybe the context of it being a female director, in an empowering story maybe allows them that, but I think it's also bold and brave and true to the story.
Yeah, I mean, it's sexy when it wants to be, and it's not when it doesn't want to be, and I don't know. It's just really, really well done. Go see it right away. The Goldfinch.
The Goldfinch stars, what's his name?
Alson or some Al. What's his name?
What's his name? I totally had it there for a second. And then I started off so confidently stepping forward into this movie, and then literally Baby Driver's name just ran out of my head.
Like, I know letters in it.
I've just been calling him Baby Driver. So that's what's going.
Ansel Elgort.
That's what's going in my review. Is Baby Driver does this? Ansel Elgort stars here as a young man whose mother is killed in some sort of attack on a museum. Somebody planted a bomb in a museum. He was the only survivor, or he and another girl. Sorry, there's another girl who also survived. So there's two survivors. She has a pretty serious head injury. She's going to disappear from the story for a while, but he's kind of in love with her based off of their shared traumatic past. In the midst of this aftermath of the attack, he picks up this painting called the Goldfinch, which has this incredible history to it, and sticks it in his bag and takes it with him. And people just assume that it burned up in the fire. And from there, it just sort of haunts him, like the heart in the floor in the Edgar Allan Poe movie, or the movie play. And he keeps going back to it, and meanwhile, all those other things are happening in his life. The weird part is that you spend so much time with him as a child, as opposed to the Ansel Elgort character, who's only really present in the final act, and certainly not what the trailers portray. He's more there just in the final act than he is throughout the rest of the movie. Basically, this thing haunts him throughout his life. He gets into drugs. But he was still like really super successful as a furniture seller. Nicole Kidman plays a woman who almost kind of accidentally took him in. He was friends with her son, and then when he has nobody else, he's like, they ask him, well, who can we take you to? And he says, can you take me to this person's house? This friend of mine, his mom will take me in. And she did. And for a while, she raised her as his, and she was as much as she seems like this very cold and distant character, she actually does take this kid in, and she does care for him, and she's actually the heart of the movie in a way which you don't expect from the trailer. But this movie doesn't work because it's got so many threads going in so many different directions. The trailer lies to you about where the story is going, and then there's this very broad and almost kind of comical character named Boris, who becomes his friend when he's living with his father in Las Vegas after he's been with the Nicole Kidman character and her family. He's living with his father, who's played by Luke Wilson, who's totally wrong for this movie, and Sarah Paulson, who's playing a beat that I think only she can hear in this movie as a gold-digging wife of a guy who's a professional sports gambler for a living. There's a lot of threads to play here.
Yeah.
And they're not all well played. They're not all well woven together in this movie, and that's really unfortunate. It doesn't work, and the ultimate fate of the painting is just kind of silly.
Yeah, you don't sound like you're having fun talking about it. I was gonna, I was hearing the buzz about Hustlers, and so I wanted to go see that, and then out of nowhere, Brittany Runs a Marathon was coming. I was like, I really want to see that. I wasn't able to, but the Goldfinch is one I was planning on seeing, and then I saw the critics panning it like 20% on Rotten Tomatoes. Nobody likes this movie, which shocked the hell out of me because of all that are involved. The director of Brooklyn.
It looks like a picture that should be up for Oscars based off of just what you see of it in the trailer. It looks so handsome and refined, and in many ways it is, but in many ways it's also deeply miscalculated.
Was any of it them running out of money, or is it just kind of they just not planned out well enough?
I think it's just not a fully formed script, really. I think they had a lot of ideas. They hired the wrong actors for key parts, and that really holds them back.
That's unfortunate. Brittany Runs a Marathon.
Brittany Runs a Marathon stars Jillian Bell, who I talked to this week. She was awesome. I'll share that from our radio station page to the Facebook. So anybody, if you wants to listen to that, she's really great. This is a story of a woman named Brittany who's 28 years old. She's overweight and out of shape, and She finally becomes so filled with shame and self-loathing that she decides, well, fuck it, I'm just going to start running. She starts with just running to the end of a block, and then she builds up to their little tiny goals that she builds up. Along the way, she kind of becomes friends with Seth, who's this guy in her new running group that she joins, and he's a gay guy who's married, and they bond over their mutual inability to run properly. Then there's Catherine, who's really a dedicated runner, Michaela Watkins, who it seems like she's going to be treated like a villain to Brittany, but she's not. She really just wants to be her friend, and she's got her own life going on. That's this whole other movie that's happening that you don't actually see, but it's wonderful that Michaela Watkins is playing it that way because it gives you a sense of a whole other life that's happening, and she makes her feel more real. The same goes for the Seth character, actually. He's got a whole life that's happening as well. So there's a lot of inner life for these characters, and that's what makes this movie so great in so many ways. But it's really about Brittany's journey and about her becoming a better, healthier person. But also not becoming a better, healthier person because she kind of becomes so obsessed with running that she kind of forgets to be kind in other aspects of her life. And the movie does not go for the cheap joke, ever. That's what's so great about this. Like, oftentimes you'd think, she's going to be the self-deprecating fat girl who makes jokes at her own expense and everybody laughs. No, that's not who this is. We're not going to go for the easy joke. We're going to run past the easy joke and go for something that is awkward and uncomfortable and funny and maybe funnier. And I really appreciated that. I really appreciated that throughout the movie. It happens repeatedly.
Yeah, this looks so good. And I tried to, we had no kids, so I was trying to get my wife to go see it because it's something that she'd like, I thought. But I did not win that one. But I can't wait to see it. This and Hustlers have the same exact score on Rotten Tomatoes right now, so it's just very cool. And
it reached me in a way that I'm going to talk about in the review that I wrote. That's hopefully going to be on our Facebook page soon. But it touched on things that I did not want to. I didn't want to touch on because it's so deeply personal that I just thinking about it makes me emotional. Issues related to food. There's a scene in the movie where she's been becoming successful running. She's getting better at it, and she's enjoying it. And then she walks by a fast food joint and sees this giant cheeseburger, and she's got to go in, and she's got to get one. And then she's sitting in a table near a window, and she's eating her cheeseburger, and Michaela Watkins' character walks by and sees her, and she's just, the shame and the self-loathing that she's feeling over eating this cheeseburger is there. And Michaela Watkins' character is super kind. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't try, and she's not judgmental in any way, but Brittany makes it clear, go away right now. Go away right now. Fucking awesome.
Yeah. No, I can...
She stands there. After she finishes the burger, she puts the thing in the trash, and she sees that there's a couple of little pieces of cheese stuck to the container, and she can't resist reaching into the container and peeling off those pieces of cheese out of the trash. It kills me.
Yeah. No, I can... That's 100% why I went vegan, is because I was so ashamed of what I mean, if I saw my reflection in the mirror of the car I was driving while I was eating something, it was just, I felt, and the way I saw it was probably way worse than it looked.
Right.
But that's how it is for everybody, and it sounds like that movie really captured that moment. And probably, she's probably running a ton, getting healthier, at least on a physical level, but still eating bad and not seeing the results. Is that part of the movie?
There's not really. There's other aspects, though, of her personality that come out via that story that you have to see for yourself that don't really stand up to my explaining them.
Right.
There's another great scene in the movie where she's at a nightclub. This is early in the film. And she just wants to feel pretty. Just for, she's with all these really attractive girls, and she just wants somebody to think she's pretty for just a moment. So she chooses to do something horrific. And the choice is hard and hilariously funny and so real. So real.
Wow. I want to see this movie so bad. but I'm sure it'll be uncomfortable in certain aspects of it. I mean, that's a hard thing to capture. It's everybody really has those issues, and a lot of times we just focus it on drugs and whatnot, but there's so many other things that...
It's weird that, like I'm going to talk about my food issues in my review, and it's funny, each time I talk about it, I get these, like older baby boomer types, or even older than that, like just kind of looking down at me like, what are food issues? Like, what are you talking about, food issues? We just eat. What are you talking about?
You created it, motherfucker.
Right? Exactly.
You created everything.
I think growing up in a consumer culture the way we did with Ronald McDonald and all that shit that people throwing at us constantly.
Boxed meals, yeah.
I think growing up in that does create issues that didn't exist for the greatest generation and those types. The older boomers didn't have that their entire lives.
Right. No, I'll tell you a story that I had to deal with a couple of weeks ago. I ended up in the hospital. I ate perfect, like as clean as you can be for like a week straight, 5-6 straight days. Literally lost 12 pounds. And then the next week, we went to a barbecue, and I was doing fine, but my wife's like, let's make vegan cupcakes and then a vegan cake and take it all to this party. I'm like, we don't need all that. One, nobody eats vegan anything. They're going to be like, vegan cupcakes, fuck that. So vegan cake, fuck that too. So she ended up making way too much. It sat around, and all it took was eventually, it's like if you're addicted to cocaine and there's a mound of cocaine on your dining room table that you walk by every day, you might be able to avoid it once or twice. Eventually, you're going to stick your face in it. And then when you do, it's all downhill from there. And so the next week, started off with those stupid cupcakes, and then just next thing you know, I'm eating at Subway and Burger King, and it's the other direction because now that Burger King has a vegan burger, it fucking sucks. I got I gained it all back, almost gained it all back, and then got heartburn to the point where I thought it was a heart attack. It would not go away. It was hours long, and literally everybody blamed the 12 pounds I lost, not the eating like an idiot the next week. With most of them baby boomers.
Yeah.
That was where they all went, and I was like, no. All I ate was like vegetables, and everything I ate was healthy. I got all the nutritional elements I needed. I lost all that weight because I was unhealthy to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's.
I guess I'll go there a little bit because I know there's people listening going, come on. So I'm like 7 years old, and I got this piece of food that I desperately wanted, and I dropped it.
Oh, I know what you're. I know where you're going with that.
Years later, that memory just everywhere with me. It encompasses my entire life in one little piece of dropped food.
Uh-huh. No, I mean, it's just, sharing food with my kids. I want more pizza rolls. And that came back to my dad. He, every now and then it was a treat. He'd get himself pizza rolls, and we'd always want one or two. And it was a big deal and then it would feel bad if he didn't get it, whether he didn't get it. It was just, food became such a reward all the way around, and it still is for a lot of people.
That's everything to me. Like, and that's the thing is, like, the cheeseburger scene is all about, well, I did really, really well. I get this now,
Yeah.
And that is not how food works.
No. Yeah, food is definitely my biggest issue. And, yeah. All right, let's move on to our Undisputed Classic. I had to unplug my phone from the recorder due to other issues. I kept hitting wrong buttons.
Oh, we forgot one new movie, though.
Oh, what did we forget?
We forgot the movie, the title of which I keep forgetting. The Keira Knightley movie. It's so funny because I can never remember the title of this movie. I was putting it in the review, trying to remember the title of this movie.
All right, I got IMDb up.
Something Secrets?
Keira Knightley.
Secrets. Literally just writing this review like an hour ago. National Secrets? No.
Official Secrets.
Official Secrets. That is such a shitty title for a movie. And it's so integral to what, because literally the act that she violates is called the Official Secrets Act in the movie. It's based on a real story of a real woman who did this. And it's so funny because it's such an unmemorable title. It's directed by Gavin Hood. Basically, it's a true story of a woman in England in 2004 or 5. I can't remember. 2003. Yeah, because we were just going to the Iraq War. She gets this. She works for the British intelligence, just as an analyst, just interpreting things, interpreting information, and passing it along. She gets this memo that demonstrates that the Americans are spying on their own allies with the help of Britain. She takes it, she secrets it out of there, she gets it to a reporter. It ends up in the hands of Martin Bright, played by Matt Smith, who publishes it in the Observer newspaper, and it embarrasses the government. She hopes that it's going to actually be enough to stop the war, but of course it's not. And that's kind of the part of the movie that is the biggest problem, is that how obsolete this movie feels and unnecessary, because we already know this failed. Like, it's a wonderful story of a heroic woman doing something heroic, but it failed miserably. No one's stopping this. No one stopped the war. It didn't change anything. And that the movie never escapes that futile feeling of, like, this is wonderful what she did. She did the right thing. Didn't really matter. And the movie never separates itself from that. It never becomes essential in its own way.
That sucks. It got an okay rating on Rotten Tomatoes, but not great. It's kind of right in the middle there, 70-something. Now, do you want to move on to our classic?
Sure.
To Die For.
To Die For. This is Nicole Kidman, one of arguably her greatest performances, and
definitely a breakout. I mean, she did around,
absolutely.
But this is where she went from just kind of being Tom Cruise's wife to holy shit, she can act.
Yeah, she plays a weather person who named Susan, who is in a bad marriage to Matt Dillon, a marriage she shouldn't have gotten into, and now she wants a way out, and she figures her only way out is to convince a group of teenagers to murder her husband. She happens to be trying to make a documentary about teenagers and the way they think, and she picks out a couple of the most troubled kids and leads them down the path toward basically committing murder. Joaquin Phoenix, Casey Affleck, and there I go again with my inability to remember names.
That's the one I don't know though.
Yeah, she didn't go on to do very much, or at least it doesn't seem like it. Not like the way that Casey Affleck and
Joaquin Phoenix. Yeah,
they went on to do kind of bigger things.
Can you imagine if this came out recently with those names?
Oh wow, that would but
is it Allison Follen?
Yes,
Follen.
Yeah, Allison Follen. She's very good in the movie, and I'm sorry I didn't remember her name. But yeah, so Susan sets the path, and then of course they're going to commit murder, but it's the worst, dumbest murder possible because they do pretty much everything wrong, including her, and it's pretty obvious that everybody's going to get caught, and you know where the story's going from there. Nicole Kidman is incredible in this movie. She's chilling, she's sexy, she's exciting, she's completely different than what you imagine of her, and she captures this character in a fun, unique way that I think Gus Van Sant really sticks the very spiky tone of this that you have to get to, this darkly comic part of it, even as I didn't buy into the ending.
Yeah, or the killer.
Right?
I mean, I guess they loosely established it early on. They're connected with the mob.
Yeah.
It's just kind of mentioned. But it's chilling, I guess. But really, it's you have those people that just do things where they're moving forward at all times and not thinking about the consequences. I'll figure it out when I get there. You look at our president's one of those guys. A lot of the news media, some of the higher ups, they tend to be like that too. And it's captured so well here to the point where it's frustrating. It's just like, use your peripherals.
Yeah.
Not everything's forward. And just the performances are amazing. Joaquin Phoenix is almost unrecognizable.
Right? Yeah. And
partly because he's young, but
he's also just living into this role so much.
Yeah.
The tragic poignance of him talking about being a sports announcer it is so funny and so sad at the same time because you're not laughing with him, you're laughing purely at him, but you're feeling it.
Right. Yeah, the whole thing is just everybody is perfectly cast. Casey Affleck is, I like, he kind of had the same Good Will Hunting character, I guess, only a little bit more troubled. It's crazy how this goes on to lead into Good Will Hunting in a lot of ways. That's funny, what's her name? I forgot already. Alison Fallen. She's in Good Will Hunting as well. But I don't know. The performances are amazing. Everything about it is, Matt Dillon's great in it, is just kind of the clueless, supportive, old school boyfriend who doesn't really have a clue what his wife's doing. He's the one in charge. And Ileana Douglas, I can't never pronounce her name. Ileana Douglas, she really is kind of the glue that kind of pulls the movie together in a lot of ways. She tells the story through her interviews.
But it's funny though. I think even at a time before the era that we are in, this is a '90s movie.
Yeah.
This is a movie that captures something that felt very modern in the idea that she's not entirely wrong in her feeling, because he is trying to make her live a life that she doesn't want. And she, whether you think she's a good person or not, she deserves to be able to make her own choices. She's got ambitions, things she wants to do in the future. They might be silly to anybody other than her, but they're her ambitions. And she may be thinking that she's bigger than she is, but that's true to who she is. And I thought the movie was very fair about portraying her as, yeah, she's a villain, but at the same time, she's not necessarily wrong about wanting to get away from this guy.
She just doesn't. Well, she doesn't really.
There's just a healthier way to do it.
Oh yeah, there's definitely. And she's not great at communicating it either, because it goes kind of over his head in a lot of ways. That what her wants and wishes are. What she's doing is, she thinks she's this big time meteorologist, but she's working for this, public access station that has no money. It's, her, where she's at in life is she thinks she's a lot bigger than it is. It's just a really, I don't know, it's one of Gus Van Sant's best, and I hadn't seen it since it came out, and it was actually way better than I remembered it being, and I remembered it being pretty good.
I thought when it came to the ending, though, I thought it would have been much more. I guess maybe I'm just thinking of it more of in a modern context. It just feels truer that someone like her gets away with doing this. That felt, not that I wanted her to, but that's just the kind of stupid, ugly thing that would happen in our society, is that this person would continue to thrive.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's 50-50 when it comes to those type of people. Sometimes they become the president, sometimes they go down. But it's, yeah. I mean, I like Hustlers. I like the way that worked out better than, because that makes sense. Yeah, they did something wrong. Yeah, they should get their hands slapped.
Yeah.
But the people they screwed were ruining lives and didn't get anything.
They absolutely deserved it.
And at least she killed somebody, and really only Joaquin. I mean, obviously she died, I guess. So there's that. But. And it didn't really make it any better or worse. It just kind of was like, well, what's the point of her?
Yeah.
Just to show Ileana Douglas skating on top of her. I guess that's a cool visual, I suppose. 1989.
What came out?
Nothing.
I don't actually remember.
The Big Picture.
With Kevin. Yeah, this is a weird movie. So Kevin Bacon plays an aspiring film director. He goes to Hollywood. And it's basically just a typical thing of, like, how much of my soul am I willing to sell to make a movie? And I like this movie. I think it's terribly underrated. I just think Kevin Bacon is really good in this movie, and I love a lot of aspects of this movie.
In Country?
I don't know that one. Is that Bruce Willis? I think it's Bruce Willis, and I think that was one of his early Oscar plays, I believe, if that's the movie I'm thinking of.
Yeah, he's in it. Emily Lloyd. Yeah, he has a full head of hair and a beard. A young girl whose father died in the Vietnam War becomes determined to find out more about him and his experiences. Yeah. He plays Emmett Smith. I have not seen it, so I can't comment on it. Night Game, remember that one?
No.
Me either.
Is that a baseball movie?
I hope so.
Like a terrorist attack in a baseball game?
Roy Scheider, Karen Young, sounds like it probably is. Holy cow, this looks amazing.
Huh.
A police detective tracks a serial killer who is stalking young women on a beachfront after each game that a baseball pitcher wins.
Whoa. Wow. And I recalled the baseball thing just based off of the title. That's amazing.
Well, the poster is like a guy with a hook hand with the hook going through a baseball.
That's a great poster, I gotta say.
Especially for a shitty 80s movie.
Yeah. Wow.
And then there's Sea of Love, the Al Pacino, Ellen Barkin movie that I've seen before, but it's been a long time. I just remember Ellen Barkin.
Yeah. I just remember moonlight through a window and Pacino pushing her up against a door and having sex. Like, really determined amount of sex.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of all this. I remember this movie is the Ellen Barkin. And
I remember the rain on the window and the moonlight going through, lit by moonlight, very moody, and just not something I could jerk off to for some reason.
Wish I could agree with that. Next week, we've got Ad Astra, Downton Abbey, Rambo Last Blood, and then I don't know if it'll be part of the show or not, but I'm seeing Game Changers at a Fathom Events on Monday, and then 3 from Hell, which I believe we're going to do a bonus episode of Rob Zombie movies. All Sean's idea. I don't know if he just wants to fight or what the deal is.
I know. I think I felt like I owed you something for something I'd said. I felt bad about, and now let's just give Bob a show. What do you say?
I thought you just wanted to attack me some more. I don't remember what you said that made me feel bad, but I appreciate it. Now, I've been watching them and kind of reviewing reviews, trying to understand what I like about it. And I think I finally get it, and I think it comes back. I mean, it'll be on the show, but it comes back to, watching it, just the movie, and then the cultural stuff around it. It's, and I guess we'll have more of a conversation during that.
Well, and I think also, episode. More than anything, we just need a bonus episode.
Well, yeah, because I'm not going to be here the next week. So it's really going to be part of the following 2 weeks from here. Next week will be a normal episode. After that will be that bonus episode. We may dabble in 3 from Hell. We'll see next week. But 89, Black Rain turns 30. First time I saw a guy get his head cut off in a movie. And I didn't know the movie. We were just watching HBO at a friend's house, and all of a sudden it happened. We were like, holy shit. And years later, we were like, we remembered that moment, didn't know the name of the movie, and finally had to go back and find it. Dry White Season, Eric the Viking, and Queen of Hearts. I don't know any of those movies but Black Rain. Our classic is Gosford Park, to go along with Downton Abbey. And that's kind of it. I want to thank our Patreon supporters. The key group level, we have Charlie Messing and Jason Bryant. At the character actor levels, Cousin Jeff, Josh and Beth Paul, and Christina Cato. At the special effects level, Sarah Morell and Corey Finner, and then our movie star Dave Sievers. If you want to be a Patreon supporter, ihatecritics.net/Patreon is the best way to help support the podcast. Jeff did mention wanting to drop Patreon due to our review. And we went back. We had some good conversation. Do we have time for... Or we do Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
The Peacemaker or To Die For?
To Die For.
Agree completely. Panic Room, My Life.
She was in Panic Room?
Apparently. Or she was in a movie called Panic Room. Let me make sure.
I don't remember her.
She plays a... Yeah, she is. She's the girlfriend. She's literally just on a phone call.
Oh.
It's just her voice.
Okay.
So I don't know if that counts enough.
Which was the movie it was up against?
My Life. I can delete Panic Room out of here if you want.
Yeah, I mean, she's not even, really in it.
Removing Panic Room. All right, Batman Forever, Cold Mountain.
Cold Mountain.
I agree. Billy Bathgate, Days of Thunder.
Billy Bathgate.
Wow.
I know, it's a shit
I agree
movie,
completely.
Days of Thunder, so
I mean, that was the first time I saw her naked, so that's going to go a long way. Eyes Wide Shut, Aquaman.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Agreed. To Die For, Boy Erased.
That's tough. That is so good. She is so good in both those movies. Fuck. To Die For.
It's To Die For me just because she's kind of the lead.
Yeah.
She's great in Boy Erased, and I thought she deserved a nomination for a supporting character. The Peacemaker, Boy Erased.
Boy Erased.
Agreed. Dogville, The Paperboy.
Dogville.
Yeah. My Life, The Hours.
The Hours.
Just Go With It, Destroyer.
Destroyer.
Gotta disagree on something here. Cold Mountain, Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge.
Agreed. Dead Calm, Malice.
Malice.
Yeah, it's a better movie. Billy Bathgate, Practical Magic.
It's Billy Bathgate because still have nightmares about that singing around the cooking area scene in Practical Magic.
Days of Thunder, Practical Magic.
Days of Thunder.
I agree. To Die For, Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut.
It's To Die For, but I've mentioned many times I need to rewatch Eyes Wide Shut.
I'll never get over that final moment. He looks at her and he says, "What do we do now?" And she just leans right into his ear and goes, "Fuck." And like, oh my God, wow.
Yeah, and being 19 or 20 when it came out didn't help. God damn it, it's To Die For. I feel bad. I don't know if that's accurate. We may have to come back and do this another day. Boy Erased, Eyes Wide Shut.
It's Eyes Wide Shut.
I'll go with you on that one. Aquaman or Boy Erased?
Boy Erased.
The Peacemaker, Aquaman.
Aquaman.
Agreed. Dogville, The Hours.
Should be a lot easier because she won the Oscar for The Hours, but I haven't had a strong memory of Dogville. Because that is such a bold and different movie. It's The Hours.
See, I'm going to go with Dogville just because of what you said. The Hours. George voted for him. I guess I didn't establish George votes in between when we disagree. My Life, Dogville.
Dogville.
Paperboy, My Life.
My Life.
Yeah, even though I really enjoyed her peeing on Zac Efron. Moulin Rouge, The Destroyer.
It's Moulin Rouge for me.
Yeah, I really like The Destroyer, but more of the performance in the movie, so I'll go Moulin Rouge. Cold Mountain or Destroyer.
Destroyer.
I'm thinking it's recency bias. It's been a long time since I've seen Cold Mountain. Just Go With It, Cold Mountain.
Cold Mountain.
Batman Forever, Just Go With It.
Batman?
I go with Just Go With It. I remember that more than I remember Batman Forever. It's been forever since I've seen Batman Forever.
Wish I could forget Batman Forever, but I can't.
Adam Sandler wins, sorry. Malice or Billy Bathgate?
Malice.
Man, it's so hard for me to separate the movie from the nudity. God, I want to be
she's in the mirror wearing the fur coat.
When you're a teenager, that's like
Hoffman in the background.
It's like the perfect thing in the world, where you get the front and the back view.
Notice that's the only thing I remember about that movie.
That's literally why I've been picking it as much as I have. But Malice is a good movie. Dead Calm or Billy Bathgate?
Billy Bathgate.
I agree. Days of Thunder, Dead Calm.
I just don't think Dead Calm's a very good movie.
And I haven't seen it since I was younger, for the same reasons I saw other movies. I just don't like Days of Thunder.
I don't want to. I appreciate it in a weird way, just for being so cheesy and stupid.
Yeah, I'll go with Days of Thunder. Practical Magic, Dead Calm.
I really hate Practical Magic a lot. Way more than I should.
Well,
way more than I should.
But you got great actors in the movie that's really bad.
Yeah.
And that deserves to get knocked down a notch.
Yeah.
So Dead Calm.
Yeah.
The Hours, To Die For.
To Die For.
I agree. Eyes Wide Shut or The Hours?
Eyes Wide Shut.
Agree. Boy Erased or The Hours?
The Hours.
Yeah, she did win the Oscar.
She deserved it, too. Her Virginia Woolf is pretty incredible, and it was kind of outside of what people expected from her.
Dogville, Boy Erased.
Boy Erased. As much as Dogville is this experiment in style, it lacks emotionalism, and Boy Erased is all over the place with brilliantly founded emotion.
And her performance alone is pretty fantastic. Dogville, Aquaman.
Dogville.
Agreed. My Life, Aquaman.
Aquaman.
Yep. My Life, The Peacemaker.
My Life.
Just don't remember My Life that much. It's been easy to vote against it. But I'll go with My Life. Paperboy, The Peacemaker.
The Peacemaker.
I'm going Paperboy. She peed on Zac Efron. It's Paperboy. I don't remember it being horrible. Just kind of some bad decisions.
I've seen it fairly recently, and I don't remember it.
Malice, Moulin Rouge.
Moulin Rouge.
Malice, Destroyer.
Destroyer.
Malice, Cold Mountain.
Cold Mountain.
Malice, Just Go With It.
Malice.
When I say nothing, I'm agreeing with him. Billy Bathgate, Just Go With It.
Billy Bathgate.
Agreed. Days of Thunder, Just Go With It. Apparently, when we disagree and it doesn't make sense, because we did this once. And
it hurts the machine that's like, it
right.
doesn't understand what to
We'll
do.
go with Days of Thunder, that's fine. Dead Calm, Just Go With It.
Man, I mean, they're both shitty in unique ways.
I'm glad you're conflicted this much for an Adam Sandler movie.
Dead Calm.
I agree. Practical Magic, Just Go With It. I don't want to break your head, but
just go with it.
Holy shit. That might be a first on the podcast.
I hate Practical Magic that much.
Practical Magic, Batman Forever.
Batman Forever.
Agreed. Moulin Rouge, To Die For.
That's hard. That is so hard. It's Moulin Rouge.
See, I don't feel like it's fair that I have to vote on this one because I'm not as into, like, I understand how good it is. It's not my favorite type of thing. And To Die For is, like, right up my alley, and I just watched it, so I have that recency bias.
I'll let George decide then.
I already feel like I blew Eyes Wide Shut. It's Moulin Rouge.
Thank you, George.
To Die For, Destroyer.
To Die For.
Eyes Wide Shut, Destroyer.
Eyes Wide Shut.
Destroyer, The Hours.
The Hours.
Boy Erased, Destroyer.
Boy Erased.
Dogville, Destroyer.
I'm going to go Destroyer. Just because that's just, I think, a much more powerful lead performance.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to... Now it's the performance versus the movie, I think. But again, I'm also bringing a lot to Dogville, having not seen it in forever. She's really good in Destroyer. I'll go with Destroyer. Cold Mountain, Dogville.
Dogville.
Agreed. Aquaman, Cold Mountain.
Cold Mountain.
Malice, Aquaman.
Aquaman. Malice is kind of that dividing point for me. Like, everything that... Like, Malice is the last of the good ones, and then everything underneath Malice is
right.
the drop-off.
Malice, My Life.
Case in point.
I'm assuming My Life's the drop-off?
Yeah.
Okay. Billy Bathgate, My Life.
Billy Bathgate.
Days of Thunder, My Life.
Days of Thunder.
Dead Calm, My Life.
My Life.
George gets
No, I didn't think that.
God damn, I gotta quit dropping this thing. It's My Life. Dead Calm, Paperboy.
Paperboy? Yeah, it's not. I don't think. From my minor memory of Paperboy, it's not as shitty as Dead Calm.
Probably right. Dead Calm, The Peacemaker.
The Peacemaker. I don't think as dull as the Peacemaker is, it's not as shitty as Dead Calm.
I hate like this in such a progressive cancel culture. Like, there's literally part of me is like, well, she's naked in this one, not in that one.
Canceled.
That's why Dead Calm is probably not the worst movie on the list. Number 1 is Moulin Rouge, 2 To Die For, 3 Eyes Wide Shut, 4 The Hours, 5 Boy Erased, 6 Destroyer, 7 Dogville, 8 Cold Mountain, 9 Aquaman, 10 Malice. Then Billy Bathgate for case in point of my the way I've been voting. Days of Thunder, My Life, Paperboy, The Peacemaker, Dead Calm, Just Go With It, Batman Forever, Practical Magic. That's actually pretty accurate, other than maybe the top 3 you could rearrange.
Yeah. Practical Magic belongs at the bottom, though. I really hate that movie.
Yeah.
Way more than I probably should. It's probably not nearly as bad as I'm making it out.
But throwaway movies with great casts,
it feels like such a waste.
I hate those more.
Yeah.
You know, I've said it a million times when Roger Ebert got all mad because people were shitting on Crash, but Deuce Bigalow came out. How could you say this is worse than that? Because Deuce Bigalow wasn't trying to be good. Crash tried really hard to be the best movie ever, and it failed miserably. It deserves to go
miserably.
It deserves to be lower than it deserves to be skipped over Deuce Bigalow. Anyway, that's our show. I have some editing to do.